All right, hey everybody, this is David Henry from LearnStageLighting.com, and in just a few minutes, about 10 minutes from now, we are going to start our webinar. So if you haven't yet, log into the chat, and I will be back in about 10 minutes. Thanks, guys. All right, for those of you guys just popping here, hitting play on the webinar, this is David from LearnStageLighting.com, and in just a few minutes, right on the top of the hour, we are going to start this webinar. So if you haven't already, hey, hop in, register in the chat. We'll be doing some Q&A segments during today's webinar, and we'll get started in just a minute. Thanks. All right, hey everybody, we're gonna kick this thing off. First thing I want to know from you guys who are logged into the chat, and if you're not, hop on in there, is where are you today? Whether you're at home or out on a gig in some other city, I'm here in Nashville, hence the picture of Nashville, and just want to know where you guys are from today. We'll hear about that in the chat, and know guys that as we do get started here, when I talk to you guys and let you guys know about things happening in the chat, I'm going to be a minute or two behind you. And so while I'm going to reference things in the chat, we'll have certain Q&A segments where that gives us a quick little break from the learning, and we can just answer the questions and move on in the chat. And so let me know, guys, where you're from, and we'll kick this thing off in just a minute. Awesome. So we got Zane from Indianapolis. We got Daniel from South Africa. He's in Johannesburg. Awesome. Cool. And looks like we got some more people coming in right now. So, hey, if you just hopped in on our webinar, jump in the chat and let me know where you guys are from. We got Elizabeth from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I know I pronounced that right for you because I grew up in the central Pennsylvania area. And so awesome. So obviously you guys can see. If you can't see, let us know on the chat, and you can hear. And so as you guys let us know where you are, I'm going to keep moving on, and we're going to dive into learning Martin's MPC software. So today we're going to have this webinar. You've already discovered the chat, and we've also got these slides here. And I'm going to be spending a lot of the time in the slides. However, there's going to be points in time where I go ahead and reference the chat over here, okay? So we're going to go back and forth between the slides and as well as the MPC software, and then we're going to hop over to the chat. And if you guys could do me a big favor, here's what I need you to do. Click this little cog at the bottom, and make sure your quality is set to 720p if your internet connection can possibly handle it. I'm looking at the statistics right now, and most of you guys are on that, but for those who aren't, as long as your internet can handle it without buffering, we really want to have you at the highest quality so that you can see the MPC interface nice and clearly. All right, and then also I want you to go ahead and remove distractions. I've set my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I'd really like it, if at all possible, if you can do that as well. And so that's awesome. Thank you guys. Today, we got some really exciting stuff coming up. We're going to cover the basics of MPC and the M-Series consoles. Then I'm going to teach you about the M-Series platform. We're going to kind of go over some of the hardware options for those of you who are completely new to M-Series. And then we're going to hop into the software, and that's going to be the bulk of our time, and it's going to be about 2 hours total, and get you off to a running start. So I'm going to cover everything you need from when you first launch the program to at the end of today, you're going to be able to confidently have a running start and really be moving in the software and be able to program some cool stuff. Then, last but not least, we're going to show you where to get help as you continue to grow and learn more about MPC. So does that sound good? Let me know in the chat. And it's great to see tons of people from all around the world. I'd love to see that today. So who am I? For those of you guys who are brand new to Learn Stage Lighting, you've never been here before, I'm David Henry, and I founded LearnStageLighting.com back in 2012. But before we get there, I actually started as a lighting designer. I'm working in this business full-time. I started in 2009. Before that, it was a hobby. And I do a lot of corporate events, trade shows, things like that. But really, throughout my time, I've done all sorts of stuff. I've lit theaters, you can see here, church events, lots and lots of corporate shows, live music, weddings, fashion shows, exhibit halls, all kinds of stuff. And I've really had the opportunity to work on some really cool projects with some really cool clients. But let's not focus on me. So I started Learn Stage Lighting in 2012. Thankfully, it doesn't look like this anymore. But now it looks like this. And Learn Stage Lighting is really a place that I've created that I want to create for you guys, for people who are beginning with lighting like I once was, who want to learn more about it and who are just, excited and just new, but don't know where to turn, because that's where I was when I first started with lighting. And I want to be able to give back and be able to educate you guys and be that missing piece that I didn't have when I was first being educated in lighting. And so that's Learn Stage Lighting. If you're completely new, I encourage you guys to check out the site after today's webinar and other times as well. Whenever you have a lighting question, pop over there and see if we got an answer for you. Now I want to talk about M-Series, all right? Focus back on Martin. So M-Series has a lot of great hardware. These are a lot of the options that are available, and I just want to run through them quick, kind of run through what we've got. The first is the mighty M6. So this is the flagship console, but if you go and look at pricing, you might be surprised because Martin's stuff is not as highly priced as other consoles on the market. It's really a good mid-range console, and I think a great value for what you get. All right. Then we've got the M1, which is a little step down from that. It's about the cost of a Roadhog, a little bit less, and you get a whole lot of faders. Then we've got the M Touch and M Play, which is coming out soon, guys. And these are some really great attachments for MPC to be able to control through your computer. Some of you guys here may have M Touches with you. I know I've got one right here, and it's just awesome. It's just a really cool interface that Martin's made to work with MPC. And then last but not least, I want to highlight this USB Duo box from Martin, this MDMX. These things are pretty awesome. It's the Martin MDMX box, and it gives you two outputs, two universes of DMX for under $300 US. And so if you know about, some of the other manufacturers out there, they don't have interfaces this cheap, but Martin does. And so I just wanted to highlight that for you. So let's talk about the MPC software, because that's where we're going to spend the bulk of our time today. The MPC software is designed first and foremost for touchscreens. And as we get into that today, whether you're on a computer or not, whether you're in MPC or on an M-Series console, you're going to find that the experience is the same across consoles or computers, but at the same time, it's designed for touchscreens in such a way that you're able to easily work without a console interface. The MPC software has one free universe that you can output. It's a hard patch to Universe 1 for NTEC output, ArtNet, or SACN. And Martin also has a Show Designer visualizer available as well if you need to do previs. So now I want to hop over to the console, and we're going to get started. And I want to say hi to my friend Matthias. He really is from Martin, unless that's an imposter. And he's reminding me that the M-Series is inexpensive, but not cheap. And so that's important. All right, guys. So let's hop over. Let's start talking about the console. So first thing we're going to do is when you boot up, you see this screen, right? Does everybody see this screen when they first boot up? Excellent. All right. So when you power up, this is going to be the first screen that you see. You have the options of creating a new show, loading a show, joining a network show, or continuing the last show that you were on. Now, if you guys haven't already, grab the link below and download the show file that we're going to be using this morning, my version of the Martin demo show. But we're actually going to start fresh to begin just talking about the basics. So we're going to click New Show and click Yes if you've had a new show before. I'm just going to leave it with Untitled for today. We're going to let that go. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you guys how to load a show. You don't always have to go back to this screen. All right, so we'll just let this load a minute. And feel free, if you've got MPC or an M-Series piece of hardware with you, feel free to follow along as we work today. All right, now that we're loaded, I want to point out a few things about the user interface before we get started. Not going to go super in depth, but we want to note that on the side of the screen here, we've got a variety of different screen views that we can go through. We've also got the menu, this blue dot up here, brings up the console menu. We've got our playbacks down at the bottom of the screen here, and they're numbered. And then we've also got some pop-up windows we can get to, all right? The first is the command pop-up, and this is for the various. This is basically, straight off of an M1 or another console from Martin, and it's just your number pad plus your command keys. And then there's a pop-up QWERTY keyboard too. If you don't have a keyboard connected, you can use the on-screen keyboard. Now I want to also show you, and we'll get to this a little later, but you're able to pop this window up to access the parameters once we've got some fixtures patched. And then you're able to pop it out sideways to access these specialized controls for each of the types of parameters. So we'll get back to that in just a minute. First thing I want to do, now that you guys are here following along, is I want to go in and patch. So we're going to click the blue button in the top corner. We're going to go to this little happy light bulb that says patch. And that brings up our patch window, okay? First thing to do when we want to patch a new fixture is go to Commands right here, this blue button. We're going to press New Fixture, and we're going to get this pop-up, okay? Now the first thing we're going to do, like a lot of consoles, is select our manufacturer. We're going to notice a couple things here. One is we're able to scroll through all these letters here to be able to find the manufacturer we want. And the second is that the generic manufacturer, Martin, has a lot of fixtures in there through the generic manufacturer. And there's really a ton of cool options, which is great if you run into, you have different dimmer channels, you want to name them different things. Also, really important is if you run into some, really cheap LEDs, you can go, oh, okay, well, this one's not red, green, blue. The colors are blue, green, red, and you can select that and not have to do a lot of crazy stuff. First thing I want to do, however, is go over here. We're going to go to M, scroll down to Martin, and grab some Vipers. So we go to M. This is just like the manufacturer's tray. Going to grab some Viper profiles. Next thing it shows you is the mode, all right? So you want to make sure you're selecting the the correct fixture mode, rather, that you've got your fixtures set at. Let's pretend that we're running these in 16-bit extended, and now we click this little arrow that takes us to auto patch. Now there's a number of options in here that I think you'll find interesting. The first is the name. All right, so we're able to give our fixtures a name if we want to. I'm going to call these spots just to show you how it works. Then we can click to amount. We can use these arrows, or we can simply click on it. We'll see that it's highlighted, that number in the command line, and we can type on our keypad. I want 8 today. Now, automatically, it turns on this automatic mode for start ID, universe, and address, and you can toggle that on and off just by pressing the button. Now, I want to go ahead and turn all those off to show you guys a few quick things about the patch. The first is that you are able to change the start ID. For example, I like my spots at 101, the universe, the address, and the footprint. Now, the footprint can be useful if you're running into a fixture that has an extra channel that doesn't match up to the profile and you want to use it. You can simply add a gap in there. Or, say we could leave a 3-channel gap because we just walked into a venue and we're able to go ahead and, that venue patched an LED in between each mover. You're able to leave that gap in there and patch those LEDs in using the same method. So we hit that apply button and our patch is going to apply. All right. And so we got these Vipers here. In another show, we're gonna rather later in our webinar, we're gonna open up the demo show file, and there's gonna be a bunch of stuff patched. But for now, let's just hit close patch, and we'll move on. All right. So very simple, pretty easy to get patched, and we will go ahead and now navigate to the page called the Fixture Center. All right. Now, this is where we're going to grab our first lights, and we're going to take them and drop them into the 2D view. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I want to go to this auto group here in the Fixture Center, select my Viper profiles. Now I'm going to go into the 2D plan. The 2D plan is one of the things that we really like about, I really like about Martin's M-Series console, and it's a lot of fun and can really save you a lot of time as you're working on your show, all right? So first thing I want to do in order to create some things in the 2D plan is I need to click this live triangle because that's going to put me into edit mode, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and click this Add button. Now this is going to allow me to add the fixtures that I've selected already. It says 8 fixtures selected here. Now you can add them all in one spot, or as I like to do, I like to select this line and hit Place Fixtures so I could put them on the map on the 2D plan. See, I just click and drag and it puts them on a line just like that. All right. Next thing to do is going to pop out of edit mode here. Rather, we're going to hit Add Group. I want to grab an auto group. I want to show you guys how to add a group into the 2D view. All right, because this is something you're going to want to do with every show so you can have your groups in the 2D view and easily access them. So I'm going to click this group right here. Going to click Place Group. You can see it told me that there's one group selected. Going to go ahead and place it. And I accidentally placed it sideways, but that's okay because I'm able to simply edit the rotation right here on the sidebar. All right, few more things that I want to show you is that gonna pop out of edit mode here, and you can see here my window kind of cuts off a little with the screen resolution that I have today. All right, and it may do that depending on your screen too if you have a screen that's a little funky like mine. So I'm just gonna go here, unlock my screens from the main blue menu. Gonna scroll. Going to drag this over just like I'm manipulating a window in any other piece of software. I'm able to drag the window around on this left side. Then I'm simply going to right click over my current screen view. Going to press record screen and click OK. Now I've fixed that problem that I had there. Going to hop back into edit mode here. And I want to show you guys pages, all right? So you're able to create different pages of this 2D view by simply clicking this little plus sign here. And this can do you a lot of amazing things. You can also rename them by pressing this when you're on the page, right over here. This can do a lot of cool things for you. Think about it this way. As we'll talk about in the demo file in a minute, you're able to quickly and easily have, say, a front view and then a top view here, or maybe a magic sheet view like a traditional theatrical console magic sheet. And then we're also able to go and create different layers within our sheet. All right. So I want to show you that here. Able to just add right here, just like on the Sheets button where you added the different pages, we're able to simply add layers. And then these layers work just like Photoshop, just like any other program that you use layers on the PC. So want to stop and take a quick break for questions, guys. So does anybody have any questions thus far through patching and 2D view? And I'll take a quick water break and then be answering your questions. All right, guys, so I'll wait just another minute or two, and if there aren't any questions, that's totally cool up to this point, but we will continue on creating some cues in just a minute. All right, guys? So let me know if you got any questions thus far through patching and 2D view. All right, guys. Don't have any questions in the box yet, so I see some other chatter there. So hey, if there aren't any questions thus far, this is probably the simplest part of our webinar, and I'll move on here if indeed we do not have any questions in about 30 seconds. All right. All right, perfect, guys. So again, if any questions pop up in the next minute or two, I will stop and deal with them, and could talk through them with you guys. But if not, let's plow on ahead and create some cues. All right, so we're gonna hop over back to MPC, drop out of our edit mode here on our plan view, and then we're gonna go ahead and go to the programmer tab, the program window setup that's already set up when you start the console, and show you guys groups. All right, so actually I'm gonna hop over to the slides, and I want to talk about groups for a second. So if you're brand new to moving light consoles, you may not be familiar with this idea of groups. You may be like, what in the world are groups and why do I care? Let me tell you. Groups are building blocks for cue creation, and so they're going to be the first step that we take as we're building our show file. These little boxes here, these squares, are going to be different groups, and this represents what we've got in the console, where we just create different grouping of fixtures, whether that's by type of fixture, by position on stage, or any other group of fixtures that you'd want to recall during your programming. All right. And so it's really the first layer of programming in a moving light console. And so usually when I sit down, it's the first thing that I go ahead and make in my console. So hopping back over to MPC, I want to go over here, and I've got all my fixtures selected right now. And while we saw the automatic group that Martin had made up for us in the fixture center here, it was under auto, I want to go and create a group, because that's going to show up on our programmer screen as well as other screens in the group window. So I'm simply going to pop up my commands here or hit record on a piece of hardware. And then I'm going to click the group tab that I want to record this group on. I'm going to simply, to name it, just simply type after I've clicked on it. So we're going to call this All Vipers and hit enter. Easy, right? Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead, and I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to click clear on my commands, and I'm just going to select half of them. I'll select the second half just for the purposes of demonstration. Come back over to my programmer, hit record, hit my group tab, and then I'm going to type. I'm going to say half Vipers. Right. Now that we've recorded that, I want to quickly show you guys, if you need to move these around, it's pretty simple to do. We're just going to use the move command right here, and we're going to be able to move this group around. So we hit move, we hit our group, and we move it. We click our destination to move it there. We can also copy groups, which can be quite handy by using the same syntax. Again, copy, then we hit our source, then we hit our destination, and now it's there. I'm going to show you, you can also delete. Again, there's a delete key in this command center. Delete it by clicking on it and hitting enter, and the console is going to confirm to you so you don't mess things up, because certainly we can all do that at times. Now, I want to show you guys that if you want to edit a group, say you said, okay, you know, I like this half Vipers, but I need to change it a little. You know, this fixture 106, I don't want to use it anymore. Then I'd simply deselect that in the 2D view or in the programmer, I'm going to go ahead and then record. Click on my group Half Vipers and click merge or replace. Now, these are a little different. What merge is going to do is it's going to add any new contents that you've done, and replace is going to replace whatever this group is with what you've got live in the programmer over here. And so I'm going to hit replace in this instance, and you can see we've replaced the group with my new selection. Another quick way to really create groups quickly, I'm going to hit clear here, is the grouping tools. Now this is something that as you get in and you learn the grouping tools, it's really going to speed you up, and it's really going to help you create a lot of groups really quickly. All right, so I can go in here, grab my All Vipers, click this grouping tools. You can see now I've got a lot of options here, and I've also got a second tab with some predefined masks. So I can go in here, I can say, okay, I want every 2 units to be selected. Now, all my odd number units, number 101, 03, 05, and 07, are selected. Then I can go in and I can record a new group. I can call it All Vipers every 2. And then you'll see here that the console has recorded that grouping mask into that group, letting me know that it's every 2 Vipers is being recorded into there. All right. And so that's just a quick little meander through there. I also want to show you guys that when you've got half selected like this through a filter, as we do, you can click your commands, and I'm actually going to drag it over here so we can see what's going on in the programmer, and you can use the last and next keys in order to go through your different fixtures. You can also use the highlight, which is going to bring the intensity of your fixtures at full so you can identify them either on your stage or in your 2D view. And that just helps you to, if you're looking for a light, and it's able to say, okay, that's what I got selected. Got it. So presets. Let's talk about presets, which is the next step once we've got some groups programmed. So I'm going to hit clear and hop over the slides for a second. And we can see here that presets, like groups, are building blocks for cue creation. They're generally grouped into intensity, position, color, and beam effects. So what does this all mean? Well, presets are settings of the different attributes of the light separated into these 4 types that you apply to groups, all right, or to individual fixtures. But it's really helpful to apply them to groups because it's going to make programming much faster for you. So you'd select some fixtures, say all your Vipers, and then you'd put them in an intensity or a position or a color or a beam preset or all 4, and then you'd move ahead from there and record them into cues, which we'll talk about in just a minute, all right? And so hopping over here to MPC, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all my Vipers. I'm going to pop up my attributes window, and by default, this side window is not there, but you can pop it out to be able to get some more controls. And I'm just going to bring the intensity up to full. You can do that here on the encoder wheels, or you can go ahead and you can say at full, hit enter, and it would do the same thing for you. Now that I've got that, I want to hit record. Remember to use my pop-up window or my hardware, and drag this window out of the way and pop it in intensity. Just like groups, I'm able to simply name these presets whatever I want. So I'm going to call this at full because that's what it is. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press my clear key twice to clear everything. Grab my Vipers, grab my at full. We can see here that on our intensity attribute, all my Vipers have now switched to full. They're displaying in the programmer that they're being controlled by the at full intensity preset. But when I look at the actual attribute, it tells me, okay, it's at 100%. So, no matter what it was set at, you could look right here and see the percentage. Now, say I hit clear, and this is some of the power of presets, so I'll hit clear twice. I'm just going to grab that half Vipers preset that I created, and then click at full. And so you can see here, if I pop back to my slide, I was able to just grab some of my fixtures and apply them to the preset. And only the fixtures I selected, only that group or individual fixtures changed to that preset, all right? And so this might seem, I know some of you guys know other consoles and this is really basic, but I know some of you guys here today also, this is your first moving light console, and so I want to make sure you guys understand this, all right? So pop it back over to MPC. That's the power of presets, and we're able to create them in all these different types, all right? So let's say I clear everything out by hitting clear twice, grab all my Vipers, and you want to grab all your fixtures that you want to create the preset for, and put the fixtures into that. I'm going to go over here to position or pan tilt, pop open my attributes here. We'll pop this guy open too. We can see some different options here. In fact, we can grab this cool little joystick doodad for pan tilt. I'm just going to give them something that I like. All right. Going to go ahead, record that in a position preset. Similarly, can do this with color, just by putting my fixtures in a color. Go into this color picker maybe. Let's pick out a nice green because I like green. And I can go ahead, hit record, put that in a preset. All right. Then I'll go ahead, gobo. Grab a gobo. Any gobo. We'll pick, I always like the ravioli. A little pasta there, something tortellini. Whatever it is, we're going to record it right here as a gobo. All right. And so you can see here, now we've created our first few presets, and we're ready to hit clear twice to create our first cue. So let's go over to the slides a minute, talk about cues for those of you guys that are completely new to lighting. So cues are finally, right, the finished work which you play back from a fader, button, or on-screen control in M-Series or MPC. And so they're the third layer of this diagram we've been drawing out here, right? So we start with these groups, we go and apply presets, and then we're going to record those to cues. And a few things just to kind of wrap up groups and presets is that later, if we decide, say we don't like the blue that we programmed, we decide, that blue doesn't work for me, I need to tweak it, we can just grab our group, tweak our color, save it to our preset, update that preset, just like I showed you how to update the groups a few minutes ago, and then it's going to update in every single cue that color is used in. And so that's how these things are really powerful, because you're able to modify your groups, update them later, update your presets later, and have that update forward into your cues, all right? And so that is really important there. So let's hop over, show you guys how we can do our first cue right over here in MPC. So we're going to grab our Vipers. We're going to give them, let's just give them the gobo, the color, the position, and the intensity. We can see here in our programmer, if we scroll around, okay, we've got all those attributes there. I forgot to relock my windows. And so we've got all that in there. Now the only thing we're going to do to record our first cue is just go pop up our commands here. Simply going to hit record. Then we're going to select where we want to record it. You can either click here on the screen, or if you've got hardware, you can click the select key on your hardware. So going to give it a name right now. There's this little pop-up window allows you to give it a name right here. We'll call it list 1, which I know is really exciting. And then we've got some options here of some different types of cues, all right? And so I want to go in here and just hit enter. Boom. Our cue list is recorded, all right? So now, at this point, I'm going to do a double clear. Going to double click right here, or if you've got hardware again, you can use your faders. And I'm going to click play. Now we can see in our 2D plan the attributes we brought up, that green with that gobo with the position, are now on our lights via the cue. You can see here, we can fade it up, fade it down. Everything's working as it should. So at this point, I want to show you guys how to load a show, because we're gonna hop over to that demo show that I created just for our webinar today, okay? So before, we showed you how on the startup screen you can load a show. But if you're already booted, you can go here to the menu, go here to load save, right down here at the bottom, press load show, then you go find the files. In my case, I put it on my desktop. You double click it and let it load, all right? And so we just got a question that I think Matthias is answering, but I want to answer just for the sake of the replay. Leon says he hasn't grabbed the new version of the software yet. What changed in the pop-up design? Because he probably sees on my screen that this latest version of the software does not looks a little different from his. And so the answer, of course, that Matthews just gave him is that they're easier for touchscreens to use. I'm going to show you it here. Say I grab something, hit record. They're bigger. The buttons are bigger. They're more consistent. It's really easy to grab, really easy to read, and be able to see what's going on there. And so I'm going to hit clear because I didn't want to do that. I just want to show that to you guys as things are loading, all right? And so the first thing I want to show you, now that we've got our show loaded, and hopefully you guys are loading this show alongside of me and you downloaded it from below the screen or in the emails I've been sending out to you guys. And we're going to pop over to the cue list directory, which is over here in the window views. Now, the cue list directory is a really great place where all your cue lists that you record get put. So even if you delete them off your playbacks, you move them around, you lose them, whatever, they're going to stay here in the cue list directory, unless, of course, you delete them from the cue list directory. And so I want to show you guys here a few things related to this. First thing is that you're going to be able here to switch banks on your console. So I've got all my faders filled up because this is the demo show. I'm going to go ahead and select bank 3 because I know that bank 3 is empty. Now I've got cue lists to play with, all right? So say I want to take this Quantum Profile Submaster and I want to put it down on this fader. Simply, I just go pop up our commands, pop up here. We're going to click Move, Quantum Profile, right down there. And now I've got fader control of that here on my faders, okay? You can see that I'm fading it up and down on my M-Touch as we speak. Now, when we fade it up and down, we can see that here in the cue list directory. We can see that here as well on the fader that we put it on. Now we can move them around as well. We can go move this cue list, say I want it over here, done. Just like the groups, just like the presets. It's the same way with all of them, which is very consistent and very good because it's easy to learn. So that's easy enough there. Let me show you guys. You're able to also, if you really want to get rid of a preset, which I discourage you from doing unless it's really useless to you, then you're able to go ahead and click delete. And let's just do this all red one. Hit enter. And that really deletes it out of your show, all right? And so that's pretty important there as well. And at this point, before we talk about the different types of playbacks available here in M-Series, I want to take some questions. So any questions thus far through the basics of cues? So start typing those in, and I'm actually going to go over here and quickly talk about this cue list value screen. So if I select a cue list here, let me actually go to a different bank. I'm going to select a cue list with a bunch of cues on it. It's going to pop up here on this cue list values screen. And so type in your questions if you got them. And here's where I'm able to quickly look at this in spreadsheet form, look at all my cues, and edit the triggers, the delays, the fades, etc. So to do all that, you simply go ahead and just click edit mode. That's really important. And then you're able to go in here and say, okay, I want to click on this. I want to set a delay of 2 seconds. Type in our command line, hit enter, and it's changed. I'm able to change a whole bunch of things in here, like the fade mode, able to do a different fade path if you want to, just by clicking up here. You're able to do an accelerate or a break path or a shake if you so desire, etc. And so you're able to do some different things in here, set some mark cues, etc. Here in the cue list values screen. So see, we got somebody typing here, and so I will answer these questions as they come up. Does Martin work with other show designers? All right, Daniel, I think you're talking about you were talking about different visualizers, and any visualizer that can take in SACN or ArtNet or even DMX, straight through a dongle, you can use with your console, but you're going to have the console, of course, unlocked for that many universes. All right, Graham typed in, why do you use the cue list directory instead of the programmer window, or just use the programmer? All right, let me figure out what you're asking there. I think I was just using the cue list directory to show that to you guys, to show you that even if I'm in the programmer and I record a cue list here to cue list 1, it's going to show up in the cue list directory, and that's where you're going to find all of your cue lists, okay? So regardless of where you recorded them, when you recorded them, they're going to show up here in this directory, and you can find them there. So any more questions thus far? All right, perfect. I see a couple more questions coming in that we'll answer here, and then we will continue on in just a minute. So Graham, so yeah, the cue list directory, exactly. You don't record the cue list to there specifically, though I think you can. Regardless, all the cue lists are going to show up there. If you delete a cue list off of your fader and you think it's gone forever, it's not, etc. It's in the cue list directory. So yeah, there are some other consoles that work that way that you may be familiar with. But exactly, I just wanted to show that to you because there's always that oh no moment, where you deleted a cue list and you were like, I needed that, where did it go? And you can't get it back, and it's in the directory. So exactly. Perfect. One last quick thing that I want to talk about while we're in cues is tracking, okay, guys? So if you're new to moving light consoles, and you record a bunch of cues on the fader, sometimes you might go play them back for the first time after you recorded them, and they don't quite work like you thought they would. All right. And so this is because of tracking, which is something that all modern moving light consoles use pretty much. But again, if you're new to this world of professional lighting consoles, this may seem a little weird to you. And so what's going on is got a little spreadsheet here that I just jump through and exit, and I've got a little chart here to show you what's going on, all right? And so we've got 3 different cues here on the vertical side of things, and then 4 different dimmers on the horizontal side of things. And in Q1, dimmer 1 is set to 100%, dimmer 2 is set to 80%, and dimmer 3 and 4 have no value. Now, this is important because in the console, if you do not touch anything since your last clear of the programmer, if there's any fixture, any attribute that you don't touch, nothing's going to be recorded in the queue, all right? So if you're used to some simpler consoles where, everything that you see on the stage is recorded into a queue, that's not the case in a professional level console because it gives you a lot of flexibility. And so say Q2, just moving on here, there's no value recorded for dimmer 1. Dimmer 1 isn't going to be at 0% for Q2, but rather it's going to show at 100% because it's not modified by what's going on in the queue. There's nothing to tell it to change. And so when I went say I went and edited Q1 later and then, made it 95% because it was just a little too bright, then in Q2, that would track forward to 95% once again. So you can see here then, dimmer 3, I put in as 25% in Q2, and then in Q3 went back to 0%. I set that value, and so that dimmer will record there. So an important thing to know with tracking is, say you're doing a live music show or something like that, you need to make sure at the first cue of your show or the first cue of your song, you're going to touch every fixture and give it a value that you are going to use in that song so that the look on stage is exactly what you want to see, because we don't want you to get the wrong thing, okay? So that's tracking. It's how M-Series works. I'll show you in a second how you can turn it off for a specific cue list. But if you don't understand it and it's a new concept to you, I'd really encourage you to learn it and not to turn it off, because it's really going to save you a lot of time in the long run once you get used to it and once you learn it, all right? So, back to MPC. Going to go over here and hop back to our programmer window. Go back to this bank 3, because when we go to record a cue list, say I put the intensity at full of my ACLs, and that's starting to get a little warm in here because they're all on at full, and I'm probably going to burn out some lamps in a few minutes. But I'm going to go ahead, press this command here, hit record, and press the playback. Now you can see here, I've got 6 different options, and actually there's 7 of the type of playlists that I want to make, the type of cue list to record. And this is really cool because Martin's gone ahead and given us some easy to use, quick select types of cues that we're able to quickly make instead of having to go in to the cue list and select a bunch of options and hope we get them all right. Then we're able to simply just select the type that we want and get it to do what we want, okay? So I want to run through these quick and just talk about the different types of playbacks that are available and why they're so important. So the first is a regular old cue list. This is going to be for those of you guys who've been around lighting. You're just a typical latest takes precedence cue list. You press the play button, it plays. The fader controls intensity, etc. of that cue list, etc. Our next type is the submaster. Take a quick drink here, guys. And the submaster is an HTP fader. So this is great for intensities and conventional lights. And so what happens here is, simply put, you move that fader to full, the light's going to come up to full. But if the light's being controlled by another submaster somewhere else at full, and you start to bring it down, that light's not going to be affected, all right? So that's a submaster, great for conventional lights, great for intensity channels, etc. It's really nice because if you have it up and then it's just always there, always available for you to grab and change the intensity of that light in a additive way. Now chases, actually let's go to inhibitives right below submaster. This is similar to a submaster, but not really, because what an inhibitor does is we're able to record to it any parameters of the light, intensity, color, even gobo if we really want to, and it allows us to be able to pull down that specific attribute of those specific lights by a percentage, okay? So inhibitives are really cool because they allow you to simply, record a bunch of lights, say we're recording intensity on there, and then if they're too bright, no matter what cue that brightness is coming from, we could say, okay, we just want to pull it down a little bit with this inhibitive fader. And then you pull it down, and it's going to be pulled down no matter where it's coming from in the console. So it's a great little master for only a few lights that you're able to subtract from whatever's on stage. And so an inhibitive, when you bring it up, is never actually going to bring up any lights, but rather, as you bring it down, it's going to control the output of specific lights and of specific attributes right there. Now a chase, these are pretty cool. You're able to record a bunch of cues on your list and just have it chase through the different looks that you made. So whether that's a bunch of conventional lights that are just turning on and off, or maybe it's something more elaborate. Maybe it's a moving light going to some positions in a room, some very specific positions, and chasing around in that aspect, which you needed to do. Then we've got overrides, and these are like gold, all right? So the override is really cool, and this is something that Martin has that a lot of other consoles is pretty difficult to do, okay? And here's why. Here's what it does, rather. What it does is it simply gives you an IFCP fader, meaning it's going to crossfade any and all attributes. When you bring it up, it's going to start crossfading that particular light. And then it's always on top. So it's always got priority, so that if you record something to an override, whether that be tilt for your moving lights, or and I'm going to show you some examples in a minute, or maybe a color, when you bring that override up, it's going to change that attribute. And so again, really cool, something that's really awesome that you can do. And then inside of the override is also the cue blender. Now I'll show you guys an example in this test show in a minute. But the cue blender is just super cool because it allows you to really easily just have a bunch of different cues on the fader. And as you bring that fader up, it's going to fade between those cues. And it can do some really cool, innovative stuff that might blow your mind, all right? And then last but not least, there's the time code, which if you're running a show on time code, that's perfectly automated. You're able to set up your cues to match that exactly within this type of playlist, and so that's cool as well. So let me grab a quick drink of water and show you guys some of the different playbacks in this show and how they work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my first bank by clicking this bank selector, clicking bank 1. Alternatively, I can use the plus minus keys on my M-Touch, which I've got. If you don't have one, totally cool. And what I'm going to do is go over to my 2D plan so we can see what's going on here. I'll deselect everything and show you guys these submasters, all right? So first things first, I've got a bunch of stuff on already. So let me not turn any of that on with my submaster. Fade that out here a minute. And the first thing that I want to go ahead and grab is this front of house submaster. All right, so that's going to control these front of house fixtures right here. And as I bring that up and down, you can see right here that those fixtures turn on and off. And so it's just a quick, easy way to bring things up and down. Now, a regular cue list, for example, say I've got, back over here to bank 1, I've got this main show right here, and this does some cool things, but I'm going to hit play on it by double clicking. I get this little pop-up. I can hit play, and my lights begin to do some things through that cue list that has some delays and such set to it. All right, so you can see what's going on there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that, release that cue list. Now, we've got Cue Blender, all right? Now, these are fun because Cue Blenders, these two lights are on this Cue Blender. You can see here to follow the lead singer, all right? So whether he's all the way on the left of stage here or on the right, this Cue Blender constantly goes in between the two cues that are on it and allows you to just grab that fader at any time and have an override, which is always controlling a specific attribute, and be able to literally crossfade between those two cues to put it where you want. Let me show you this flyout blender is really cool. So this one, for example, has 9 cues in it. All right, for all these different layers of lights, and then as I go through the different cues, you can see the different intensities come up. And so, you're on a show, you can bring that up as little or as much as possible and get a smaller or bigger impact on your show. Now, let's go ahead and show you guys. That's about it, actually, on cue list, because I hit override, I hit regular cue list, I hit submasters, and hit Cue Blender, which they're just awesome. And so let's go over and talk about effects. Now, the effects engine, we can go over here to the effects tab, or I like to do things from the programmer, but that's just me. Gonna go ahead and clear because I have those intensities up from my programmer. And the effects engine inside of M-Series is, like any console, the effects engine is different from console to console. I would argue that it's probably the biggest unique thing about consoles, whereas, between writing cues and, moving faders up and down, a lot of that stuff's pretty consistent between different consoles. However, when it comes to the effects engine, every console's unique and every console's a little different, okay? And so in M-Series, I want to show you how this works via a couple of examples. And as I go through these examples, I'm going to explain how the engine works, the effects engine, and then as a follow-up to this webinar, I'm going to send you some more examples of how the effects engine works so that you guys can really grasp it, because I think in any console, especially if you're new to lighting, the effects engine can be a little hard to wrap your head around, but we're here for you, and we'll have a Q&A in just a minute once we get through this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my quantum profiles here, selecting a group. Going to go ahead, and we're not going to use the pre-programmed effects for now, but I'm just going to hide this little picker and go and set my intensity to 50%, which there is this little center, which you're able to just click that, quickly and easily get the light at 15%. Now I'm going to switch over to the 2D plan so you guys can see what's going on. So they're all at 50%. You can see the ones that are selected, they're green. And I'm going to go over here to effects. I'm going to set the swing level to maximum. Actually, I'll set it to 200%. All right. And then you can see here a few things. One, the intensity is the attribute that I've touched. And when I click here to effects, it says swing on intensity. So this means that I am working with the effects on intensity right now. So it's important to know that the last attribute I touch, I then go to effects and see now it says swing pan because I last touched pan till. So it's very important to make sure you touch the attribute, then go to effects, but you can always cheat and look up here. It's going to tell you. So I'm going to set that swing to 200%. I'm going to set my speed to about 20%. So it's not too fast, not too slow. You can see now it's up at full. Now it's down at 0. You can see that both on the 2D view and in this handy little graph that shows you what's going on here. You can see here, we've got this mode switch here, which is a sine wave. So this is a pretty basic fade type maneuver. And this black line through the center is our base point, all right? And so what that means is that's where the light is set. And then the effect takes it above and below that point that the light is set, which for us right now is 50% intensity, all right? As we scroll through these mode, we can see there's a whole bunch of them. You can go forwards or backwards. There's some that only go up from the baseline, some that only go down, and some that aren't curves at all, but are chase on and offs. So I'm going to go back to this sign right here just to show you what's going on, all right? And so you can see here that they're all fading up and down. So we're ready for the next step, all right? The next thing I want to show you is the wave and step. The wave and step options, all right? So why is the effect line stopping so long at 0 and 100%? Cool. I was going to get to that in a minute, but hey, that's a good question for now. That's because this effect is swinging 2 to 1. So it's going to stop at the top and bottom. Say I go ahead, set it to 100% here. We're not going to get that, all right? Now, on the effects timing, I want to show you here this wave and step per X. So what is this? Well, this is Martin's way to offset your lights in your effect, okay? And so it's going to simply break up the amount of units you have by the number that you set. And wave and step are a little bit different, and I want to show you how they work, okay? So the first thing you can see is that if I click wave here, let's set it to 6 because we've got, that looks really cool with what we've got here because we've got these fingers of 6. We've got 6 fingers of truss that each have 4 lights on them. So we divide the 24 by 6, we get those 4 lights. And you can see here, since I set that wave, we've now distributed the effect across these 6 fixtures. Similarly, if I do step at 6, going to click that. Now the wave control is no longer in use, but what it's done is it's actually broken up our effect into 6 steps. And so each fixture finishes the effect before the next one starts it. And then when they're waiting, they wait at 50%. And so wave and step are a little bit different, but what they end up doing is on your fixtures, they modify the parameters below it, which are delay, shift, and wait. And while I don't like to mess with these because they're, they're a little different. It's basically, that's what's in the programmer, and it's different for every fixture, determined by the wave and step, okay? So you're going to see these values for delay, shift, and wait in the programmer, and just know that they are decided by the wave per and the step per X, all right? So now, let's add a little movement to this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. So we're starting fresh. Let's bring up all of our quantum profiles. Again, we can select our group here on the 2D view or here in the programmer. And I'm going to bring them up to full so we can see what's going on. Then we're going to go over here to pan tilt. I'm actually going to turn off in this menu here, this cog at the corner, pan tilt combo. Normally that's on, but just to keep it simple, we're going to turn that off for a minute. We're going to select tilt. Now we're going to go ahead, leave it exactly where it is. We're going to go to effects. I want to set my swing to 12, which you can see here at the bottom here. It's about 19% as well, because that looks nice. I'm going to set my speed to 20%, so it's a decently speed effect, but kind of slow, so we can see that they're all swinging exactly at that rate. We can also see our little preview up here. You can see it tilting back and forth. Perfect. Now, one thing I want to show you is how speed affects things. So one of the things we can do while our effect is running is set our speed to 0 by hitting the still key. Okay? We'll hit it right there. The effect stops, and while the effect is still active, it's not moving. And so that's really important because you're able to just stop an effect, but know that the lights don't go back to their base unless you release that effect. Probably by pressing something else, making something else active. So just wanted to show you guys that. You'll notice too when I stop it that it's not at its baseline here in this little effect window. And so that's important. It's just frozen in time, okay? So I want to go ahead and return that speed up so we can make it move. Again, I like about 20% because we can see what's going on. And you can see they're all moving once again, okay? So now, I'm going to hit clear twice and show you guys a third effect. And the third effect I want to show you is about color. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and, like I said, hit clear twice to be able to clear your programmer. And then go ahead, grab my quantum profiles again. Then I'm going to set my intensity at full. Let's take that all the way up there. By the way, these parameters, if you click on them, you got your mouse over them, you're able to use your scroll wheel to bring them up. And of course, I just brought up my shutter a little, but that's okay because I'm just going to open that back up so I don't mess up my show. But I'm going to go bring this back up to full again and go ahead and switch over to my effects tab. Now, I want to do this on color. Actually, let's not do intensity. Let's do color. Go ahead, bring up my cyan to full, and then I'm going to click on my magenta because that's what I want to create the effect in. All right? I'm going to go over to effects, set my swing to max. Actually, I'm going to dial it back a little, just to 100%. Set my speed to somewhere that looks nice, about 40%. You can see now they're pretty quickly changing from blue to cyan. And I want to show you again this wave and step because when I first started with this M-Series effects engine, this was the hardest concept for me to understand. And so I want to show that to you guys so it starts to really make sense. So we're going to hop over here. And if you're doing this along, just follow along. I'm going to select my wave per X to 6 again, so it breaks it up in 6 steps. You can begin to see, let me set the swing a little higher actually so we can see what's going on. Let's just set it at the max. You can begin to see now with that wave of 6, the color moves across the fixtures quickly. Now what if I set it to a lesser number? Say I set it to 2. Now we've got 2 groups out of our 24 lights, which is 12 lights per group. And so that wave of 2 separates this into 2 groups that are fading back and forth. Similarly, say we hit step per X, run that in a group of 2, all right? You can see there, it breaks it up. Now one goes before the second. It's actually easier to see, though, with that group of 6 because you can see each finger truss is completing the full cue, the full effect up and down before it moves on and returns back to its base point. Unlike the wave, like we saw, set that to 6, and we've broken our effect down across all of the groups. And so that is how the effects engine really works. Now, I want to show you one last effect. I want to do a little bit of a ballyhoo, and we're going to leave that pan tilt combo on this time so you can see what it does, okay? So, going to hit my clear right here. hide that right there. Hide my attributes for a second. Grab my quantum profiles. Give them some intensity so we can see what's going on. Then we're going to go here to pan tilt. All right. I'm going to make sure my cog here that pan tilt combo's on, which it is since I've hit clear since the last time. Then I'm going to go ahead and click my effects. You can see here now I've got swing pan and swing tilt and speed for both of them. So this Martin M series by default combines pan and tilt so that you can more quickly create effects with position, okay? And so let's just set, pan, swing, set that to 100%, set our tilt swing to 100%, and then we're going to set a speed right about there. And so you can see they're wiggling around, right? We can set our wave to 4, and now you've got a pretty cool ballyhoo effect, right? I'm going to go ahead and select my intensity, go to effects, set swing and speed to maximum, set wave to 4 again, so they're really moving around. And then, as one last step, I'm just going to go ahead, and this is already nice and random already, but I'm going to mess it up a little more. And I'm just going to select half the units here. Just say half the rig for kind of a weird look. And I'm going to go ahead and make them go backwards so that it makes a bit of a symmetrical effect. Not fully symmetrical, but somewhat, all right? And so that is how we make some cool ballyhoos, all right? And like I said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys now the effects macros, but I've got some videos in the follow-up of this webinar that I'm going to be sending you via email so that if this, especially this effects engine is confusing to you, we're going to cover that in deeper detail in a day or two. So be looking out for those videos. I'll be sending those over to you guys. And now let's hit clear twice and talk about our effects macros. Now these, if you didn't see them before, are over here in the programmer, all the way on the effects macro, or we can click this effects button and we get a bigger window of them, all right, with our groups underneath. So I'm going to go over to our programmer since that's where we're doing most of our work today and just give you an example. Now these effects macros, I can record any effect, like the effect I just had up. I can hit record, I can place it right here, and then I'll be able to recall that effect. Martin also gives us a whole bunch to go ahead and play with as well, which is nice. You know, a lot of consoles come with a number of pre-programmed effects. All right. So I'm going to select my quantum profiles. Actually, I'll select all moving. So my quantum profiles and my washes are selected. Going to give them some intensity. So we'll go over to our intensity preset, up at full. Go back over here to effects macros. And I'm just going to go put them in this magenta white step. Now you can see they've been given effects attributes. Go over here to the 2D plan, and you can see they're switching from magenta to white. All right. So we can go ahead and show you guys that these macros, they're just going to actually, I'll go to the 2D plan. They just give you the effect. They load it into the programmer, and you're able to still modify it, okay? So this is, unlike a cue, this is really powerful because then you're able to go, okay, I like this, but let's set it with a wave of 6 per se. And now you can see it's broken down into 6 groups. You're able to set a step, whatever, able to change the speed, do whatever you want, and be able to work with that, all right? And so that's the effects for M series. Again, like I said, I'm going to follow up with some other videos and to talk about that. So do we have any questions about the effects? I want to cover any of those here while we've got a minute, all right? And then we're going to talk about the support step. All right, perfect. Okay, I see Graham has asked making half the rig go backwards. So yeah, I just go in here, go to my effects, and it's actually a different. I just select if I want half my fixtures or all my fixtures to reverse direction. I just select those fixtures and change the mode. So this is the forward sine wave. This is the backwards sine wave. That makes it go backwards. And you've got that for all the different effects modes. And so you can see here, the ramp up or down. They all go snap. All these go forwards and backwards. And so you're able to just quickly select the opposite of what you had and get the opposite direction out of that effect, whether that's for everything. All right, Daniel, the effects linker. So the effects linker is it's a little deep for this webinar. I can't decide if I want to go into it, but it basically allows you just to click link and be able to select multiple attributes, change the effects, and be able to have them go in time with each other. Graham, how would I set speed to these cues? Well, Graham, if I'm setting it to a cue, and I probably don't want to go any deeper into the effects in this for today because I don't want to lose folks. If I'm recording it to a fader that's a cue, I'm generally going to set it, 1 second maybe, or if I'm doing it for live music, probably 0 seconds. And I'd probably even use a override fader so that I'm able to just grab it and fade it so that, say it's a ballyhoo that I record on a fader. Try to see here if I've got one here. Yeah, so there's a ballyhoo and speed here on this override. Let me clear out my programmer so we can see what's going on. And if I grab that and start bringing it up, you can see, okay, all the way up, it's big, it's fast, it's moving. But as it comes down on this Cue Blender override, it goes very slow and it's very small. And so that is how that works as well. And so again, I'm going to cover a lot of this more advanced stuff in the videos I send over in a couple of days to you guys so that you guys can have that covered. Global fader, speed fader, I will cover that later, but I just want to show you here that is possible. Graham, the speed fader, I'll send in the follow-up videos. But global fade time, you're actually able to pop up here. You're able to select this rate one, this rate tab. You get global speed, global effects, selected list, and live time, which is your programmer speed. So again, I don't want to lose people, so I'm going to go ahead and let's talk about where to get more help with M-Series if you need it. And then at the very end, we'll take any last questions that you guys have, all right? And so for support, if you haven't been there already, controllersupport.martin.com is the M-Series hub. It is really the main place where everything Martin controllers happens, okay? Then we've got the Martin forum, which you can get to from controller support. Then you've got the M-Series controller group, and this is a place on Facebook where you're simply able to, show off your lighting, check out other people's rigs, check out other people's M-Series rigs, etc. But it's really not a forum. It's just a place to hang out. And then last, martin.com/training. And this is an important link because this is where Martin posts all of their in-person trainings. Especially noted, they have some advanced trainings that you can go in the flesh, in person, be there, getting training on the M-Series console, all right? And last but so not least, I want to talk about Learn Stage Lighting Labs, which is a program that I run. And so if you're new to lighting, but you don't know where to turn, you've got maybe a lot of questions and you don't have that mentor in your life, or maybe you've got a mentor or somebody you work for, but they just don't have time. After I've taught hundreds of students through courses, and there's a couple things that I've found. The first thing that I found is that there's a real shortcut that you can make change in your lighting by watching random YouTube videos and reading articles, but there is a shortcut. And that shortcut is step-by-step instruction plus community and mentorship equals your success in lighting. And so that's a program that I run called Learn Stage Lighting Labs. And inside, I offer you all three of those things for a pretty low monthly cost. Step-by-step instruction via video, whether we're in the visualizer or in PowerPoint, going through different things, or maybe me live at some point showing you some things. Whether we're in the forums and I'm answering all your questions that you've got as you go through the training. You say, oh, what about this? Or how does this relate specifically to the lights I have? And these things together help you bring success in your lighting. In fact, you can be like these guys who are pictured. Specifically, you'll go from confused to congratulated. Now, how do you do that? Well, Pete here, he joined a few months ago. He actually joined this spring. And he said, 6 weeks ago, he knew nothing about stage lighting, but he knew he wanted a cool show for his band, and that's pictured below. He said now, just about 6 weeks later, he was confidently programming and sequencing quite complex DMX light shows. And I can tell you now, Pete's actually to the level where he's programming professional level shows, and he's doing gigs, which he never anticipated. He just thought he was going to run lights for his band. And he got bit by the lighting bug, throughout this. Soren, my friend, says, we've got more positive feedback from our audience than he can possibly count. And so if you're completely new to lighting and, you feel like you need a mentor, you feel like you need help getting through this and working your way through the problems and through the situations you find yourself in, if you guys join Learn Stage Lighting Labs today, which is my program that's just for people like you, and you join, actually I'm going to run the special for about the next 4 days. I'm going to give you your first 2 weeks inside of the labs for $1. So watch all the videos you want, ask all the questions you want for just $1 for those first 2 weeks, and then it'll continue for $25 a month after that. All right, guys? So to finish up our webinar today, we're going to have questions in a minute again, but there is going to be a replay. I'm going to send that out as soon as YouTube finishes it, as soon as it's ready, and then we'll have that available. There's going to be a survey. I really want to know what you guys thought of this webinar today. If it gave you a good grasp of the M-Series console and the MPC software, and if you were able to get up and running after it, or if it really stunk, let us know. And then last but not least, I'm going to send out those videos on the effects engine. I'm going to cover cloning as well in there. And then send you some videos on band and church lighting if you guys want. And that'll get you guys onto my Learn Stage Lighting list so that I can begin to talk to you guys about other attributes of your lighting besides just your console, all right? So don't forget, if you're interested in Learn Stage Lighting Labs, you're going to want to click that button below to get your first 2 weeks for just $1. And then we'll follow up with these other resources pretty soon. All right, guys. So any last questions? I see somebody is typing as I speak, and awesome. Graham's happy. So any last minute questions, hop on there, throw them in the chat, and in a minute or two, I'm going to sign off, and we'll still hang out in the chat for a few more minutes because we actually ended a little early today. All right, guys. All right, Graham, let me, you want to know more about global rate and speed since we got a few minutes? For everybody else, it's cool if you leave, but we're just going to answer questions from now on. And so I want to show you guys global rate and speed and how they work. All right. The forum's great too. So yeah, like Matthew said, join the forum, but let's just go ahead to bring this fader down. So I've got here my global rate and speed faders here. And if you have an M-Touch, they're also on your programmer faders, just like any of these other attributes would be. So, going to go ahead and start an effect going, all right? So we got this value. We'll bring it back up, and it's on 7. So that's up and moving, all right? So global effect speed, that's the first one we'll cover, is I'm going to drag that way down. You can see, if I drag it down to 1%, that effect gets really slow. Now, if I go ahead, let's bring up this, let me bring up another effect here. Whoop. Let me just go ahead and bring up my quantum profiles in a color effect. So meanwhile, I'll do the magenta white because it's easy to see. And my global effects is on. So we can see here that as I modify my global effects, it changes the speed of what's going on. 20% here, you know, they're both going at that speed, etc. If I crank it way up to, you know, as fast as it goes, the lights aren't going to move that fast, but if they did, that's what it would look like. And we can try to break some CMY flag motors with that. So, yeah. But yeah, definitely hit up the forums for more on how to use that. But really great way if you're running a show to quickly stop all effects by dragging that fader all the way down, or speed up, make things match the beat. Exactly. So yeah, looks like we're pretty much out of questions, which is probably a good sign. Hopefully things were answered for you guys today about M-Series. Again, you know, hop into those forums. Join Learn Stage Lighting Labs or one of the Martin trainings, depending on what you're interested in, lighting in general or the Martin stuff. And, you know, last but not least, if you got more questions, definitely hop there into the forums. It's the place to be. And we'll be signing off here, but I'll be hanging out in the chat for just a few more minutes to answer any last minute questions or direct you towards resources that will answer them. So I see somebody typing one last time, and if they have a question, I'm going to answer it. If they don't, then we'll say adios. All right, so Kevin, that's a little more advanced than I want to cover, but basically the effects, we're able to set the BPM here in the speed of the effects exactly. We can even have a speed fader, which I'm going to cover up with in a day or two, to set the BPM of specific lights through a fader. And so there is a way to do that. There is the beat button on the M-Touch right now. That's only for chases, but I know that in the forum has been asked for. And so again, guys, hop over to the Martin forums if you got any other questions. And I'll be hopping off live stream right now. But thank you guys for attending today. It's been a great time. And hey, we'll see you guys in the forums. Thanks.